wananchi bila shida.
All right, now we go to our conversation of the day where we are talking about coffee value chain. And joining me is Michael Ochieng, who is a marketing specialist at Connect Coffee right here in Nairobi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Kevin.
All right, now right into the conversation. When you look at the coffee market in Kenya currently, how are we performing? First of all, before you even get into the other nitty-gritties of it.
I think the coffee market in Kenya has tremendously grown over the last 10 years. And of course, we have the things that happened in the last 3 to 4 years with COVID changing the dynamics of everything. And then when you look at coffee, you also have to look at other coffee producing countries like Brazil and Ethiopia. Those are big stakeholders, and Indonesia, which I'd want to say they don't produce quite this similar coffee to what we produce, but mainly Colombia and Brazil were affected despite of COVID. They were also affected by other factors that did affect on the larger scale coffee habits in Kenya and other parts of the world. So if you ask me about the coffee market, it's changed. Okay, we met last year. It was quite different when we were having the discussion because Kenyan coffee had a lot of demand last year. Yes. That has changed because now it's gone to a level playing field, I'd say, almost again, because now Brazil is coming back. There is a bit of stability in Ethiopia. Now they're back to a bit of a semblance of what they used to be previously. So it's very competitive. And then locally we have we've had, of course, our political season, which comes with a lot of promises to farmers. And now this is the time they're waiting to see what the politicians are going to do. Because the biggest stakeholder in the coffee value chain is the farmer. And I think, to be fair to say, they're the most disgruntled. So it's interesting to see what they're going to do in terms of putting more stakes, cultivating more farms, because at the end of the day, if you're looking at exports, you want to produce more of good quality coffee, especially for Kenya, because we are known for having good quality coffee, not necessarily a lot of tonnage of coffee.
Almost one of the best.
Yes, yeah. Depending whichever order you put it, I always say it's top 5 in the world. You may put it at 5 or 1 based on your preference, but it's one of the best, certainly. But then we are not as big a producer as, say, Indonesia or Brazil. So we really hold on to that quality perspective. But then this also trickles down to how we influence our farmers then to put these farm practices, which have been put into place, but then how sustainable will that be if the farmers don't see the ROI on what they're trying to put into these farming methods? Yeah.
All right, so what I'm getting from you is that the market has somehow changed the way it used to be.
Yeah.
All right, now let's go to the farmer, because you've spoken about the farmer as one of the major contributors to this. And the current situation, or what we were experiencing towards the end of last year and also earlier this year, drought, and the effects of climate change. When you look at these effects, how have they affected the production of coffee at the end of the day?
It's see, coffee, like we have 2 crops of coffee in Kenya. When we had those projections last year, it was expected that we'd have a drought and there would be a shortage. But as you've seen, quite evidently, it's been raining a lot recently. And if this goes on, the projections will certainly change. You started to see people saying that, okay, there's going to be an increased tonnage and production of coffee, which is going to be really to the contrary of what people expected last year, because everyone was expecting, due to the drought, the production wouldn't be as much. But from what we've been reading, from what we've seen, it's expected that we'll produce more coffee than we did last year. Now, the biggest question will be, is it going to be quality product or quality produce? Second, how are we going to have enough time to actually push this coffee to areas we want to export it to? Because, like I said, it's a competitive market. And yes, of course, we have good quality coffee, but it takes time to actually get your buyer and then have the produce sell at a competitive price for you as the seller and for the buyer who is going to acquire the coffee. So that's the challenge we are facing at the moment, because a lot of things that have been unpredictable are now facing us, and we have to respond to that.
Right. And now, to another issue, the market is quite competitive.
It is, yeah.
As you've spoken about the various areas that are producing coffee.
Right.
So we locally, as Kenyans, as a farmer who, let's say, have a plantation of coffee that I take care of, that gives me produce, what is it that I need to do in order for me to have better quality of coffee? Because you deal with farmers.
Right.
And what quality do you look for when you're going to each farmer and saying, okay, this is what I want, this one we don't want? So how do we make sure that at least a bigger percentage of farmers are having the good quality of coffee that can be able to be sold actually even globally?
Actually, yeah, it's a lot of cultural education, I'd say, surrounding coffee, and it's something that has been ongoing. And I would say it's really challenging, because then you are changing a lot of habitual practices that really were the mainstay of coffee planting practices previously. But then, as we've seen recently, there's been a lot of success in Nyeri, because there have been private investors who've come in to a group of farmers in Nyeri, and then on a period of time, definitely they took, I'd say 2 to 3 years to actually educate them and teach them on the best practices, and they facilitated getting these fertilizers and basically the whole farming procedure up to the harvest period. And then these farmers, they saw the changes, right? So now they have coffee that is not just good produce, but is yielding a high return overseas. So what would sell for an X amount of money in maybe 2 to 3 years ago is now selling for 2 or 3 times the value it did, basically primarily through the farming changes that they did, of course influenced by these investors. But then if a farmer sees this, it doesn't matter where the information is coming from. You know, there's a reward for actually improving your farming methods. Maybe it's not what you're used to, but if this change is ultimately going to give you an increased income, I think maybe we are hoping this will snowball and then lead to influence to not just Nyeri, but the mountain region as a whole, to actually improve their farming methods. So definitely it's something that we are looking into, and we are hoping more people invest in this. Yeah.
All right, Michael, just hold it right there. We are going to go for a short break, but we'll be coming back still to speak about coffee value chain. So don't go too far. We'll be back with more. Right now, we just want to go for a short break.